I was shocked by what I observed. Coinbase recently provided confirmation. What the devil is this? As I told you all, this cycle will last until 2026. To believe that this cycle has peaked is to be on the wrong side of history or in the wrong direction. Coinbase Institutional has informed Coinbase that we were correct. Okay, so this is directly from Coinbase's official account. They tweeted that the cycle wasn't over after the October sell-off. Perhaps it was the reset that was required. That is quite peculiar. The cycle hasn't reached its peak yet, they said. Right? They continued by stating that the fundamentals remain same, undue leverage has been flushed, and institutional participants are gradually but steadily returning to the market. It seems that these coins are being acquired by wealthy people throughout time. In silence. Is that right? As soon as their bags are filled, they will miraculously pump it. Smart money's concentration around yield procedures, physical assets, and EVM chains points to selective re-risking as opposed to retreat. This chart was put right here, guys. Okay, so that was the largest cryptocurrency liquidation in recent memory. All right, 12 billion was the entire amount of liquidations in USD. The Bitcoin market was worth 4 trillion at the moment. The long-term liquidations are also visible. Okay, so that was that liquidation event's real objective. Now, what does this mean? Is the Bitcoin market reached its height? In today's video, we'll examine that, but we already knew that 2026, not this year, was the year. Folks, I don't think the cycle concept will survive. After this cycle is over, it will be a full replay. Guys, Coinbase sent us their monthly outlook. This is incredible. I didn't know they did this. They do, I guess. Executive summary. Following the significant liquidation events on October 10th, we believe the cryptocurrency markets have achieved a near-term bottom, and that positioning is now much cleaner. Coinbase predicts that the markets will bottom out. All right, for a while. Do I now believe this? I look after myself as well. Markets appear to have reset rather than broken. We think that the system has returned to structurally healthy leverage levels as a result of the sell-off, which could provide directional support in the short to medium term. Why did they pursue everyone's liquidation on October 10th? Why? Because they usually take everyone out first, then pump it to new heights. The elites don't want people who gained a lot of money by using leverage to enter earlier. Is that right? Since each coin has a rampage of 10, 100, or 1,000 times, if you were on leverage with those coins and got into the market at the right time, you would become a millionaire, if not a billionaire. That's how crazy it will get. Guys, the entire leverage has been reset as a result of their having to move forward with this liquidation process. Therefore, they might abruptly boost everything, even if we're now dumping for a very short time. Before we truly bottom out, I think we're going to dump a bit more. However, rather than a surge to new all-time highs, it is more likely that we will see a gradual increase over the next few months. Coinbase believes that we will hit new all-time highs in the next months. Guys, they believe we'll move slowly. Neither today nor tomorrow. We're going to climb that way, isn't that right? All right, not like this. Now, people, a lot of connections are being made down here. The recovery's form, though. We believe that the sell-off was a necessary reset for the cryptocurrency markets as a result of the leverage flush rather than a cycle high. Has anyone observed that? In actuality, they are claiming that this is a flush out and reset as opposed to a cycle top. Why isn't it a cycle top? If you examine the USDD.dominance pairing attentively, what is it doing right now? Overbought levels are almost here. This is happening again after only 1 or 2 instances in the past. Top. Another one maybe? Odd, eh? The liquidations below indicate that altcoins, cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin will hit a new all-time high if this is the peak, guys. I've always stated that we won't max out until the liquidation below is resolved, okay? That is liquidity. Don't we already know this? Coinbase confirmed it as well. We knew, guys, that this exchange genuinely tampers with cryptocurrency. They are therefore speculating about potentially setting the stage for a significant higher in the months to come. According to the results of a study we conducted between September 17th and October 3rd, 45% of institutional participants believed that the bull market cycle was coming to an end. Before what happened on October 10th, this was our top priority. Whoa, so many people believe we're about to peak, including institutions themselves. This phase is comparable to the previous one. Surely everyone is a mistake. And the way it works, gentlemen, is that the cycle theory, which peaks every 4 years, is imprinted into everyone. They yank the plug, right? And do a complete change in the last cycle before the reset. Then everything peaks in 2026, a year later, isn't it? That will truly fool everyone, which is why I believe 2026 again. We knew this, didn't we? This is just more evidence for what we already know. It's the cherry on top. After the sell-off, we are now more convinced that the Bitcoin market is headed upward. However, we think that market structure repair will have a greater influence on crypto positioning in the upcoming months than major events. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. However, their basic goal is to establish a structure, such as a bottoming structure, and then ascend. Correct? In the months to come. For the time being, though, I believe that I was referring to XRP and the RSIs that are forming yesterday, correct? They're still forming, by the way. They have not died. However, based on the structure, I have a strange suspicion that XRP will fall to $2 again. As you can see, the structures of XRP and Bitcoin are different. XRP is making an effort to expand from the framework. And when it finally lowers once more, it will probably take off. That only applies to XRP. Hopefully, USDT will soon reach its zenith of domination. Customers exchange their stablecoins, including USDT, for Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, and other currencies, according to Coinbase. Let's get up here immediately, guys. Come on up here. They compared the most recent liquidation instance to the Great Grain Robbery. It wasn't a robbery, despite the headline, and that was in 1973. Rather, the Soviets secretly and methodically depleted public markets of corn and wheat supplies over the period of a month. Global food prices increased by 30% to 50% before it became clear that the Soviet Union was suffering from major crop failures that were causing world grain supplies to drop dangerously low. As a result, the informational dynamics at play in the October 10th tariff-induced crypto liquidation cascade, which saw a 40% to 70% decline in many altcoins, are remarkably comparable. These two events are being contrasted because asymmetric information during periods of low liquidity led to major market upheavals that disproportionately penalized less liquid, higher beta assets in both cases. Okay, so yeah, folks, the reason we see these huge wicks is because it was all about liquidity. For instance, take a look at these massive wicks to the negative with XRP. Did Ethereum have any? Probably, but it just had huge wicks, right? With so many other coins, men. Additionally, I assume that the less wet the coins were, the harder they were struck. They killed everyone's long liquidations, by the way. Let's all meet up. Okay, check that one out. If you're far from any of these points, you're done. Okay? You're done. Nevertheless, I don't believe the liquidation will take place anymore. Since we just saw the collapse, it will probably continue till then. You're ready to leave, but since everyone was flushed out, the institutions will now be buying. We think that institutional inflows will be the primary source of future market strength because institutions were mostly immune to the deleveraging crisis. Many either kept their exposure to debt to a minimum or concentrated mostly on large cap stocks, right? As you can see, retail market participants control the majority of altcoins. At 60,000, I thought Bitcoin would perish. I find this to be incredibly odd. Aladdin actually said that change was 123 cents, right? Okay, one day prior to the event. That's what we called a black swan incident. Right before it happened. However, Bitcoin remained in existence. It was odd. Normally, Bitcoin would decrease, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that have been a normal position? Bitcoin would normally have been destroyed by altcoins. They made the decision not to go after institutional players. Why? This basically indicates that since altcoins have more of a retail interest, they targeted them, okay? Retail is of greater interest to these individuals. Institutions are not as interested in altcoins as retailers are. So they came after you and me. They didn't go after their own guys. You all see, I suppose? This is really strange, guys. However, we were aware that this would occur, right? They bear the burden of the liquidation process. If institutional interest rises, we can see a rebound in the Bitcoin markets. Despite the fact that it could take months,